is there life after death?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
Do you know?
And neither do I.
Cool.
Of course not. But here's my point. If I say I believe in life after death, you would say, that's an irrational position, Dinesh, because...
No, I would say, what's the evidence for it?
What's the evidence for it? And I would say, I don't have any evidence for it, and neither do you, but...
But I'm not believing it.
Right. But it is, and this is the key point, it is in the nature of the subject that no empirical evidence could settle the question, because death is the termination of experience. And therefore, for you to demand evidence in a domain where evidence is unavailable is the height of foolishness.
So when you say death is the termination of experience, it sounds like you're arguing that there is no after death.
I'm arguing that our natural life, I mean, I think the religious believer is fully on board with this, is complete. Our natural life in this world will completely, irrevocably come to an end with death. And so in the empirical world that we live in, yes, there is not going to be evidence, nor will there be evidence in the future, that settles the question of what happens after natural experience ends. And the question about whether there is any, let's remove the Christian context. Look at the Hindu context. The Hindu context is that there is a life after death, right? It's a natural life, but it's not in this domain. There's a world behind the world, and that natural life will occur there. But we have no access to it because we live in the empirical world that is, according to Hinduism, something of an illusion. Leaving aside the doctrinal parts of it, all I'm getting at is this. Here's a point where you are demanding that I settle the issue on the basis of an empirical evidence that is never forthcoming. And yet, you agreed with me at the beginning, this is one of the questions that all intelligent people think about. It's relevant to their life because the answer to it, even if we don't know it, determines how we should live today. And all I'm trying to get you to admit is that since you don't know any more than I do, it is the same leap of faith that I'm taking to say that there is, that you're taking to say that there isn't, because you don't have 1 ounce of evidence any more than I do. One way or the other.
Give me a round of applause. That's outstanding. Because after an hour and so sitting here and having explained this over and over again, you managed to get my position exactly wrong. Because I'm not asking you to settle it.
Do you believe in life after death?
I do not believe that there is life after death.
Perfect. So your position and
hang
mine...
on. Okay. That is not the same as I believe there is no life after death. I'm saying, we both sat here and said we don't know what.
Okay, and I'm saying
you're saying I believe there's something afterwards.
Okay, but you're missing my point.
And I'm saying I don't believe that.
Right, and I'm saying I do, and my position is not in any iota less rational than yours.
Yes, it absolutely is, because you are accepting something and acknowledging that you have no evidence for it, and I am not accepting that something because there is no evidence. We agree there's no evidence, and you are saying you are rational to accept it despite the absence of evidence, and I'm saying you're not, which is why I don't accept it.
But to demand evidence, in the opening page of the Critique of Pure Reason, Kant says, many of us profess to be apostles of reason, but never once do we step back and ask this question, what is it that reason can actually know? In other words, we live in a world where reason has the ability to arbitrate certain questions, and on other questions, reason is, in a sense, completely deaf. It has nothing to say at all. And you admitted, for example, that if you were a Greek in the 5th century BC, your reason, in the empirical sense, would have nothing to say about the world beyond the observational world. Your reason is, in a sense, silent.
I have to go to the 5th century.
Okay, or today. But here's my point.
I accept whatever the data show, and I cannot go beyond that and claim that I'm reasonable.
Okay,
I can go beyond it. You clearly have. But I don't get to claim that I'm reasonable by saying, you and I have no evidence of what happens tomorrow, but I believe this.
Okay, well, let's take a secular example to test this proposition.
Okay.
I take 2 guys, let's just call them A and B, you and me, and let's just say that I say, I believe that there is life on other planets.
Okay.
You say, to match this, I don't.
No.
Right? You say.
What do I say? I don't know. What's the evidence to support your belief?
Okay, So you say, I don't know if there's life on other planets, and I don't either.
Okay.
And I don't either.
But you believe it. So my next question is, what is the evidence that causes you to believe this?
Okay. So now I might say something like, well, the reason I believe it is we have an unimaginably vast universe. We might even be living in an infinite universe. Life as we know it, we are on one tiny speck of this universe. And life as we know it has developed by various causes, natural causes in the universe. What is the actual likelihood that this event, remotely improbable though it might be, and we can't say what the probability of it is, but let's just say it's 1 in 100 million. But we live in a universe that's vastly bigger than that. Mm-hmm. So what are the odds that this combination of attributes called human beings exists nowhere else in this vast universe? Not just human beings that are like us, but life of any sort at all. What's the probability of that? And let's say I think that that's improbable for the reasons I've just outlined, and therefore I believe it. I don't know it. If you ask me to produce an alien, I can't. But I would argue my belief is in no way irrational. Now, you might say, I'm going to wait until the alien walks on stage, and then I'll believe it. Or because your reason for disbelief may require much higher degrees of certainty than mine are. But I would argue, in me believing it and you not believing it or awaiting the evidence, this is a fake pomposity that comes out of just saying, because I don't know for sure, therefore somehow my belief is more rational than Dinesh's, even though Dinesh has all kinds of good reasons for believing what he does. Of course, if empirical evidence shows up, I'll be as open as you to pay attention to it. But I'm not in some epistemological second-class status because I believe something for which I have my own reasons, even though there's not empirical proof.
Okay. So the example that you gave, first of all, at some point, somebody can go back through this video and find the number of times that he says what my position is likely to be versus how many times I've tried to even attempt what your position is. I actually ask. So if you're just going to set up straw men, it's going to be really easy for me to knock them down.
No, I mean, I'm sorry.
Every time you do that, you say, you could say this. And here's the thing, the examples that you're talking about, we live in this vast universe, what are the likelihoods, what are the odds,
right.
All this stuff. Great questions. And there are things that we can address with data. But the belief that results from that, is not, I believe, the justified belief from that is not, I believe there is life outside of Earth, or intelligent life outside of Earth, we'll stick with that. The warranted belief is, I believe that there's a likelihood consistent with the data of life outside of that. That's different than this is the case.